Well, hello there, I'm Rafael Di Furia, back at it again for another Friday night for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. This week I wanted to give you guys another little taste of what things are like here in Braga, Portugal. Right now, we are on the north side of the center of the city. I wanted to start here because it gives you a little bit more of an idea of what some of the residential areas in Portugal, or at least Braga, can look like. I mean, this is something that you might be able to expect to be able to see in other parts of the country as well. I'm not saying there's just one face of Portugal as well as just here in Braga. There's not just one experience that you can have here. But one of the other reasons why I wanted to start down here was because it is right next to the central bus station. A lot of you will be coming by car, or a lot of you will be coming by plane or even by train. So to get here from the airport, you will need to come either by car or bus or train. I have showed you guys in a previous episode coming from the central train station of Braga, the only train, well actually not the only train station, there's technically two here, but here is the backside of the bus station right now. May as well walk through this back way. From here, you can travel actually across all of Europe. You can get all over the country here in Portugal. You have options to get really anywhere that you need, at least within like a realistic kind of perspective. Some of the trips you can take here, like even if you're going to Lisbon, you could be catching a bus from, say, Flix that might be coming from, say, Paris and going all the way to Lisbon or the Algarve. I'm not sure where it exactly stops. I would assume at least Porto, but maybe Lisbon as well. But here you do have some cafes and the bus to the airport, and from the airport you can get anywhere. I mean, actually here, right here, €9. I don't know if you guys can read that, but €9. But I think if you go round trip, if you buy both ways, it's only like 15 or 14, 16. I forget off the top of my head, but it's quite comfortable and it's quite reasonable to get there. I mean, I would say definitely a lot less expensive than taking an Uber. I mean, that could be €30, maybe €40, maybe during high traffic 50. But you take it actually more or less from this area right here, but there's a whole bunch of bus companies that come through here, and you have the options, like I said, to get anywhere in the country. So what we'll do is just, I'll show you the main hall, and of course another little cafe that you have an option to check out while you're here. And then in the main hall here, you do see a number of companies, including the local bus company, the local transportation company for Braga itself represented. But some of the companies you see represented don't always have someone behind the counter. And some of these you will actually only see somebody there certain times of day. So this is the main hall, I guess you could call. And now we're gonna head right towards the center of the city. For those of you who might not be familiar in Portugal, taxis generally look like this. Sometimes they can be like a tan sort of color, but sometimes they're this black and green, just depends. So a little bit of a different look than what you might be able to expect in other places. But like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted to start in this part of the city specifically is because I've shown you from the train station to roughly Braga Park, the main kind of mall here. There's a few malls here. That's just one of them. But in this episode, I wanted to go from the bus station area and travel all the way through the center of the city and down the main avenue, Avenida de Liberdade, Liberty Avenue. To get from one location to the other is really just a few minutes. I mean, actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video from here, but there's a little archway up here. This building basically is where like the heart of the center begins, like the edge of where you can find yourself in the city. Seems like everybody's crossing and the light's not working, so I will continue as well. Walking along this way, if you are just arriving to Braga, or if you are going to be traveling from Braga, something that I always think about when I am traveling is making sure that I have something in my stomach. I hate to travel on an empty stomach, and or at least to have something with me that I can take if maybe I'm not so hungry, or at least have water. And you will have, again, not only some cafes where you can grab a little something inside of the station, but you have some along this way as well. as well as regular shops. Everything from tour offices to glasses stores and even a butcher shop just right over here. So you've got everything that you really could need. Not that you're gonna want to carry raw meat with you on a trip, but if you should so desire, you've got the option. We are coming up on this little main kind of heart line of the center. A lot of traffic goes through here. It's a very small little street, but it does get used quite often because there's so much traffic that has to get to the area where we were just going. And then even beyond just that little area there, this is actually another little cafe right here while we're passing by it. We're not going to go in, but if you continue on the exact opposite way from where I came from, like that direction, back that way, then you have a little highway that's over there, and then you have another residential area, and that actually gets in the direction of Taberna Belga, as some of you know, Braga's famous francesinha. Over here you have a pharmacy for options again if you need when you're just arriving here, or if you're going to be just leaving from here and you want to know what's available to you. I mean, even if you're leaving here, I do often see on the real estate websites here, they have apartments almost always available on this street or another street, but this street I know can get pretty loud. I've heard from people who've lived here that they really didn't enjoy living here. Some people do because they want to be in the thick of it all, but there are certain times of year where it does get especially loud. And over across the street here, you have a store called Zebra. They've got like all kinds of random sort of knickknacks that you might ever need for your home. And for those of you who've watched my videos before, we are going to come on to the main square of Braga, and we'll be very close to Cafe Brasileira as well as São Marco 43. So maybe we'll take a quick stop by that area just so you can get a little bit of a sense of where everything is and what you'll be able to find here. Just because, again, this video will kind of overlap and intersect with the other video that I did walking through Braga. Actually, most of the videos that I've done walking through Braga, because at some point or another, they've ended up here in the center. And I've kind of done that somewhat intentionally to give you a little bit of a sense of where things are in relation to each other if you've watched each one. Yes, it's a lot of content, but for those of you who are thinking about living here, I know you'll find it helpful. I know there have been a number of you who come up to me and said that you actually have found like walking through the streets to get a feeling of the city helpful. And I know that it would be something that if I were thinking about moving to Braga, that I'd be looking for that. And actually, when I was moving to Braga, I did look for that. And at the time, there were only a few videos, and now there are more videos that are coming about living in Braga or traveling to Braga or being in Braga. But I wanted to contribute another little aspect, like a walking, talking podcast of sorts, even though this might not be necessarily a classic podcast, to give you an idea of getting around the city and a little walking tour as well while we're at it. And if you go down this little alleyway here, you'll be able to go to like a little kind of old school mall with a supermarket that's inside of it. So again, if you're needing something to grab before your trip at the bus station, that's an option. Or even if you're going to the train station, they're just taking the tree down. It's already pretty late in the month in January, and they're finally getting it down. But if you go to the right down in this direction, then you would come to the central train station here in the city. Gives you a lot of options, again, to get around the country and to get around even beyond that. And of course, in the center of any city in Europe, you're of course going to have some locations that are a little bit more touristy, some prices that get up there a little bit further than what some other options might offer. And that can happen at these places along here. There can be a few dishes that are reasonably priced, but I would say maybe you have to look for them a little bit more. But I would say especially Cafe Viana, this one right here in front of me, is a pleasant place to sit, just to chill, relax, have a coffee, have a tea, maybe an ice cream. Fun stuff. But of course, in Portugal, you have all the groups of the old dudes, just like Italy, that hang around, chit chat, keep an eye on things. Not just old guys, but also some ladies of a certain age as well that go out, meet their friends, hang out, do the thing that they've been doing. But again, to give you a little bit more of the idea where we are, I'm just taking a little detour. And this is, we'll go around this way instead. This is Cafe Brasileira coming up here on the right, up in front of us. I guess technically the left, but whatever. This direction. And then São Marco 43 is down in this direction. It's just up on the left here. It's basically the first set of seats at a cafe. But that's not the focus of this video. I want to get us down the avenue so you can see a little bit more of what Braga has to offer and a feel for an actual afternoon. This is just a Wednesday afternoon here in Braga. It's about 4 o'clock right now, 3:54, so 4 o'clock almost. So this is an average afternoon, middle of January, hustling and bustling, things going on, not so touristy. During the maybe summer seasons, you'll have more people out and about and you'll have more tourism, and that's visible. But this time of year, I find it to be very pleasant and not too much going on, but just enough to keep things interesting and to be fun, feel lively. I mean, I've lived in places where this time of day completely shut everything quiet, like a little deserted town. And for those of you who've seen the videos before, you'll know that this little row right here often has flowers, but right now they just probably changed them out because of the season. And so normally this would be filled with flowers in bloom, and every couple of months or so they just fill them with more and more and more flowers. I can only imagine what the city's flower budget must be just for this road alone. I mean, there's even some other gardens and stuff that I've mentioned in previous episodes and have shown, but this is one of the big attractions. And as well as there is a road, like a quasi highway, that actually runs underneath this and ends up on the main part of the driving part of the street. So just between even the locations where we were at the bus station up until now, very drastic difference. And so this is something to keep in mind if you are thinking about not only moving to a place like Braga, but anywhere in Portugal. You go just a few minute walk and it's already a massive difference. I've been waiting actually for a long time to make this video because there's been a lot of road work going on the main avenue here, and a lot of it's been dug up for so long. So I was wanting to wait until everything was finished, but I figured may as well get straight into it and just show you guys what it is actually like for real. It should be done by the time maybe even some of you watch this in a few months from now. I hope. The traffic in the city has been absolutely crazy. I mean, even right now, it's just the middle of the afternoon and the traffic is horrible. I took an Uber to get up to that area where the station is, and it took a little while to get there because of this traffic. And because of this traffic really holds up the traffic in a lot of other parts of the city, because one city goes one direction, one part of the city goes another, and if you miss a turn, you have to go all the way around again. And even if you actually go up to the left on the street over here, it ends up meeting with the central square, like where we were not that long ago. But let's see, let's maybe head down here. Oh, there's a lot of people. It seems like there are a few people on the other side of the road, so I'm gonna go down the other side of the road instead, take less of a chance of bonking someone on the head. So far, never bonked, but I'm not trying to make today the first day when that could happen. So what they're going to be doing is expanding the sidewalk, as you can actually kind of already start to see already. That's why it's a little bit more empty on this side than the other side, but they're expanding it out a little bit further, and they're going to put in a bike path and make it a little bit more livable than it already is. I mean, as it is right now, it's already, I would say, quite a livable city. But moving forward, they're trying to make it even more so. As I mentioned in a previous episode, actually, Braga, in my opinion, is not the most bike friendly. However, I would say there's an effort being made. The bike path itself, I would say, is not going to be ideal, but it's a bike path nonetheless. And so it's impressive that there's something being done, but I can't help but wonder if maybe the road work that's been done here could have maybe been planned out a little bit better, because the traffic has just been so cut off for so long. And even actually you can see over here where the underground tunnel meets the main road, but as it stands now, it's not quite done yet, and it's still got quite a bit to go. And so for those of you who are moving to Braga, this is another area where you can find apartments sometimes on this road to be available. And this is something to keep in mind, is that there can be a little bit of street noise, maybe more than just a little bit. Oh, now we actually have to walk on the bike path. So this, from what I understand now, is the bike path. It's not that wide, and there's supposedly going to be one on each side of the street. So maybe one side is going to be for one direction, one side is going to be the other. I don't know. To me, it seems a little skinny for a bike path. But there's a supermarket that's just up here, just past where, or just behind where I passed. And so if you are going to be living in this area, this is something that you could potentially use as your regular neighborhood supermarket. The street intersecting here, you've got some nice neighborhood in each direction. But I want to also give you a little bit of an idea going a little bit further down, because we're going to get into an area that some consider to be the rough area, the rough neighborhood, or one of the rougher neighborhoods. I'm not going to say an area that I would be excited to walk through at night, but like generally speaking, fine. What would maybe be called a rough neighborhood in Braga might not be considered rough in another part of the world. And yes, there have been some things going on more recently in the time that I've lived here. There's been some changes, and there have been things that have happened. I'm not going to go into details in this episode just because I don't want to get this video flagged, because it's not even worth getting into, but I'm sure you can imagine the regular things that could happen in any city. You have to remember, even though Braga is not huge, it still is a city nonetheless. And in Portugal, it's the third, fourth largest city. So you do have certain things that happen in what you might find in the third or fourth largest city in any country. But at the same time, in comparison to those other countries, things are a lot more relaxed here in many ways. And it does sometimes feel like a small town. I mean, even just up here, there's these two guys that were walking by each other that greeted each other. And even up along the whole walk so far, I keep seeing people greet each other that know each other. I mean, it's not uncommon that I walk around Braga and I bump into people who I know, or like someone messages me, oh, I saw you walking around through the city, didn't get a chance to say hi. It is that type of a small city where you do have those opportunities to have social interactions that can come up. Whew. That smell of the cement, tar, whatever it is, not pleasant at all. I'm so glad this is going to be done soon. That'll be very nice when this is all said and done with. Imagine even just living here with all this, the fumes from this right now. Whew. That'd be a bit much, but once we get to the bottom of this block right here, you're gonna see a little taste of what things will look like as soon as this is all said and done. Keep on just crossing my fingers, praying that it's gonna be done soon. I know it's still gonna be a while, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, or maybe up in front of me. The sun is right in my eyes right now. But for the time being, I gotta walk around. Normally you'd be able to just cross right over here, but they've made this extra little diverted path for the time being. But also during like São João and some of the other holidays here, sometimes you can see down at this end of Avenida de Liberdade, at the Parque da Ponte, the bridge park, that they might have like a little festival, carnival, or some places set up where you can go get some food or candy or sweets, Portuguese sweets. But now once you already get down to this end of Avenida de Liberdade, you can also feel there's a little bit of a difference in the buildings, and the street is a little bit wider. I believe this area is a little bit newer. Also, you have another little cafe slash bakery where you can get some yummy treats and some yummy sweets. But this again, in a place like Braga, as well as many other places, you have a lot in front of you that you potentially can find. But in a place like Braga, here's the thing that I see a lot of people asking before they move here is like, what's the good neighborhood? What's the expat neighborhood? Where does everybody live? Where should I move? At this point in time, there's so few apartments that are available, and so few that I would say are actually within a budget that's reasonable, that you kind of have to get what you get. And even the prices that I've been hearing about have become absolutely absurd. I mean, years ago, maybe you would find a one-bedroom apartment for like a few €100. Now that same apartment could be €1,000. Prices have really inflated to such a level here that it's really, I would say, unreasonable. So for those of you who are thinking about moving to a place like Braga, that's another thing you have to take into consideration, that the cost of living here is maybe not the cheap Portugal that you've maybe heard so much about in the news, reported on by large news outlets and media outlets, or the online sources that are just saying, hey, Portugal's cheap, move, but not give you any substance behind it because they've never been here before. They don't know what it's actually like to be in this country. But in a country like Portugal, there is a wide variety of lifestyles, and this is a bit inland. Granted, we're maybe 40 minutes inland, but it is not going to be the beach town life that so many people are thinking about when they move here. And in Portugal as well, especially northern Portugal, you can have quite a bit of rain. Today just happened to be a really nice blue sky, sunny day, but lately it's been pretty rainy and pretty gray. But for the next couple of days, at least, it's supposed to be actually quite comfortable. Is it going to stay like that? Probably not for long, at least not until spring comes. But even in the beginning of spring, it could still be a bit rainy out here. But also, if you are needing random knickknacks for your house, if you're moving here, this place across the way called Osheu Sheu has every random little thing. And I assume direct from China. I could be wrong, but that would be an assumption I would make. But also there's another one, a second location up the street that would have been a place that we would have passed on the opposite side. Both are up that way, but the big traffic light that I passed before, that's where the other one is. And I might say out of the two, I kind of prefer that one. But here now we are getting close to actually the Parque da Ponte. And this is one of the areas that they say is maybe not quite the best part of Braga, but it's fine, I would say, generally speaking. I'm not gonna go all the way up into it just because it is this direction that I'm looking to head more towards. But maybe another time, if you guys are interested to see more neighborhoods in Braga, let me know. At this point in time, I wanted to make sure that I've got some of the more central areas covered, some of the areas that are more on kind of a certain path, because those are gonna be some of the more areas that you'll end up crossing over if you find yourself interacting with the center of the city more. There are neighborhoods that are a little bit further out that are more residential, and I'm gonna say a lot less cute, that are just larger apartment buildings. I mean, maybe even like what you see across the street over here. And it's not gonna be the cutesy old European aspects of a town that you might look for if you were looking for that in the center of the city. But this is one of my favorite things here in Braga, actually. Maybe we'll just go, what we'll do is, instead of crossing up here, we'll cross down here, because this is one of my favorite places in Braga. You have this river walk, and it goes all the way, almost from the train station to past the area where Braga Park is. Hopefully this is coming out on camera, because it's pretty sunny and there's a lot of shadows. I don't know, we'll see. I'll see how the footage looks when I get home, but it really is such a delightful little area. And you have the pathway that goes all the way up there, and here's one of the little bridges in this beautiful little Braga. It's so just nice to have the fresh air and the water just rushing, coming right at you. The camera, I'm sure, is not even going to pick up how really wonderful it is to be out here, because it's just such a great atmosphere. But now, how do I get back up to where it was? I thought there was a way to get up there from here. I think I'm gonna have to go around and take a little bit more of an extra walk on this pleasant little road. Anyway, you guys will get a little bit more of an idea of actually one of the directions I was wanting to head in this video, but keep an eye out when you're on this road. You will find some electric scooters and bikes and people zooming their way around. Just look at that. So, I mean, this might not be everybody's cup of tea, but personally I quite enjoy it. Okay, maybe minus this little underpass here with all of the graffiti, but again, this is just another side of what you could realistically expect in a city like Braga, or specifically Braga, because there actually will be other cities where, like I said, there are various sides, various faces to what you can experience here in the city, but there are going to be some other places that are going to have maybe a mono flavor, a more singular experience of this city. But, whoop, I'll be careful. Get you guys down to the water. Anyway, we'll walk up here, walk around, because this again is another residential area, so another kind of flavor of the city. And there are people who do live along this way, and so some people could use this way to walk up into the city. Or I know there's a lot of people who come here and just exercise. They run, they bike, they walk, or they want to clear their head. They come along this path. It's a nice long path and super easy to get up and down. As I mentioned, there will be parts of town where I might not be crazy about to go at night. And there are certain points along this path that I would say I might be a little bit less excited about. But overall, we're not talking about a place that's horrible. We're talking about a place that is like anywhere. You have to just be aware of what's going on. You have to be aware of who's around, what's around, and what are the potential risks in any place. It's not going to be like walking through New York City or Los Angeles, that's for sure. But on a relative perspective, yeah, okay, maybe in comparison to what you might find a few minutes away, maybe things here are not going to be quite the same as what you would find elsewhere. I got a little bit diverted off the original path that I wanted to take, but I think this actually was even better that we came down this way, so you guys could see a realistic view of a realistic part of Portugal. But for now, what I'm going to do is walk back towards Avenida de Liberdade, because there's a whole other neighborhood that I can show you guys at some point if you're curious down this way, and it has a different sort of feeling attached to it. It's still another residential area, but again, it's just, you guys have to let me know in the comment section below if you're interested in more walk around videos like this, walking and talking and explaining what you can find here in the city. All right, so now we are back up at the Avenida de Liberdade, and there may have been some of you who've done a little bit of research about Braga and living in Braga, and maybe you've heard about a Tuesday market. I know in the past when it happened, it would start like right up here at this roundabout, but I believe now you have to go a little bit further into the park. But anyway, for those of you who are looking for the big open market, it's not exactly a flea market, but I guess you could find a few fleas. But this is the rough area of the city where you would be finding that. And then also this park over here is where you can find some of the activities during some of the festivals here in Braga. A lot of them do happen directly in the center of the city, but some of them do happen over here. So basically, just to quickly recap, we have walked a straight line most of this video, not the whole video, walking along the same road. It's Avenida de Liberdade to Rua dos Chãos, and I forget the name of the street after that up by the bus station, but This is another little taste of Braga. Of course, thank you so much for joining me on another Friday night, and an even bigger thank you to those of you who help to make these episodes possible on a monthly basis through patreon.com/Rafael Di Furia or rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon, as well as the thanks button here on YouTube. Both really go to help this project to be able to continue, as well as a big thanks to those of you who like, subscribe, and share these episodes with your friends. All of them do help in their own different way. Of course, I'm Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I will see you all next time. Later.